Welcome, everybody, to another edition of Tackle Shop Live. Wow. Scott Luckhoff, how are you, Scott? Tim McSee, how are you doing? James Hook. Yeah, baby, South Carolina. Sam and Sam's here. Charlie Esterly, what's up with you, buddy? John Pauls, what's happening? Galen Heathcote. Charlie Esterly, got to stop in again. Absolutely, man. Good seeing you, buddy. WB Jones, what's going on, pal? Matthew Weimer, yo. Man, we got a great crowd. James Hooks here, JP Harrell, Joseph Cascarino, Michael Bradley. What's up, Edward? What's up, Mark? How are you doing, buddy? Robert Donahue's in the house. Tom 1441, what's up, man? Dave Jones, Micah Jawar, how are you, buddy? Tammy, how are you, Tammy? Johnny Kopp, how are you, Johnny? Yeah, baby. Man, we got a great show for you tonight. My name is Mike Acord, and this is cameraman Nick on the other side of the camera.
How's it going, everybody?
Because George is, he's going fishing. He headed out today, heading down to the Middle Bay, and they're going for them big, giant redfish. So you're going to have to put up with us. Yeah, right on.
That's the way it goes.
We can handle this.
The beat goes on, Mike.
The beat goes on.
That's right.
And I think we can do a great job at this.
Hey, we're here.
Because we got some knowledge.
We do.
Yeah.
We're ready to share it too.
Yeah. So we were supposed to go. I was supposed to go too, but George planned a trip and turned out Caitlin was on vacation at the same time of the trip. George didn't look at the calendar, so I get to stay home and be here with you guys, which was cool. But yeah, he's going to be catching them big redfish tomorrow, and I hope they get into them. So that's going to be great.
Hey, Mike, hold on one second.
Yeah.
So with those redfish,
yeah,
what kind of fishing are they going to be doing? Is it bait?
No bait. It's all lure fishing. You know, we always look for the guy who wants to cast and jig for the fishing, like our striper guy. We don't want to troll. We want to cast and jig for stuff. You
want action.
So we have these captains around that we go with. That it's like our flounder pounder. Our flounder pounder trip is a guy who lets us go on there, and then we get him involved, and he takes us all these cool places, and we're jigging. It's all jig fishing, so it's a lot of fun. But this fella that they're going out with, he is very unique how he does it. The Chesapeake's a great big giant area, but he has a side scan. Nick, listen to this. He has a side scan unit set up, and somehow on his boat he can side scan accurately at 24 miles an hour.
When you guys told me that, I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
I mean, because that's a game changer.
Huh. Can you imagine how much water you can catch? And these are this isn't redfish like down south where there's jillions of them everywhere. These are, they're big pods of them, but it's a big body of water, so you got to find them. Yeah. So you run around, this guy just sets up on channel edges and he scans out 300 feet out to the left with on top of the channel and on the flat, and then he scans out to the right 300 feet, and he drives around until he finds them, and then they turn on them and cast big Z-mans down on them.
Yeah, but you think about, what do we keep talking about every week? Being efficient.
Yeah.
How much more efficient can you get than that?
No. And I didn't believe it. We went down earlier with him, and it was way early, and he said probably no redfish, but I'll show you what we do. And it was more of a learning trip for that one. We caught stripers in the morning, and then we went looking for these redfish, and he's cruising along, and I'm looking at George like, who's this freaking guy? Who? And he's telling me like, oh yeah, you'll see him. You'll see a big pot of them. And when I make the turn, you guys grab a rod. And when I tell you to throw, you throw right off the inside turn of the boat. So we're going along and I'm looking and I'm not really seeing anything. Every now and then I would see a speck or something, but I wasn't really seeing anything. And all of a sudden we passed this, like an oyster boat type of thing, or one of them Chesapeake boats that has like an inboard motor. And when we passed him, you could see the prop wash. It was all swirly coming down. It was a prop wash coming out the bottom of the boat. And I was like, holy crap, that thing is accurate. And it is reading that. And it is sensitive. So
this is talk about detail.
Oh man, you could see the perfect screw, the screw wash from that prop. It was amazing. So we asked him about it, and he said somehow when they put that on his boat, he had a Sea Hunter, which is a really nice boat.
Okay. And
somehow when they put that on there, it was the perfect spot. Like if you moved it over a half of an inch, it wouldn't read. If you moved over half an inch this way, it wouldn't read. It was just somehow they got really lucky and put it on there, and it holds the bottom at 24 miles an hour.
It's funny you say that though, Mike. And a lot of people are viewing this right now. They're listening to it. I got to give you a little secret that Mike said that. A lot of times when you get a boat from the manufacturer, if you can allow them to install the transducer, especially if you're doing an in-haul transducer, because the manufacturers a lot of times know how that boat likes to sit.
Yeah.
Because if your in-haul transducer's off a little bit to the left or to the right, and your boat leans away or something,
you lose.
You're done. You're done. But they know where it needs to be.
Yeah. I agree with that. But somehow this one nailed it. So what he did, he bought a second boat he's so busy that he bought a second boat, and he has another guy running that boat, and they made a jig basically, and they cut it all out, and they put it on the back of that boat, and they marked all the exact. Had somebody come in and measure this thing to the exact. It had it all laid out and laid it on that new boat and put it on there, the same exact transducer with the same exact settings. And he works real close with Humminbird, and he was using not the Solix. There's another one.
We have the Apex.
He had an Apex on there. So I don't know, maybe if it was the Apex.
The Apex is like their top of the line.
Yeah.
So I'm sure he's getting more clarity and detail.
Yeah. It was unbelievable. So they put it on the second boat, and that second boat, 24 miles an hour, holds the bottom.
That's pretty cool.
He said I can get to 27 on a calm day. He said I could do 27, but we were out in rough water, and at 24 miles an hour, that thing read the bottom like it was nobody's business.
Well, you remember we were at ICAST, and we were talking to some of the pros, and we were talking about that.
Yeah.
And they were amazed because they're not even getting that.
No, absolutely not. I mean, it's just I think there's a lot of boats out there, and that's why this guy's so popular. This guy is like the leading red fisherman down in that area, because he can find these fish every time because he can cover so much water. And so it's pretty cool that way. I was talking to some of our customers that fish down there, and they're like, yeah, we catch them, but we just kind of luck into them every now and then. It's not every time we go we catch them. This guy catches them every single time that he guides for him, and he actually bought a second boat because he's so good.
That's awesome.
So that just says something about that setup. But what a game changer for him.
It truly is.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking good, George, right? Yeah, George got a little smaller, a little shorter, lost a little weight. Yeah, absolutely. For all you guys checking in right now, I'm Mike Acord. This is cameraman Nick, and George is on vacation, and he's going fishing. So he left this afternoon and is heading down south, and he's going to fish for a couple days. Well deserving, and we'll just see him next time. So he gave me his book. I got his notebook. So
he gave that up to you.
Yeah, I gave it up. He made notes. He wants me to talk about certain things, and we're not going to dilly-dally on that. We're going to get right to it here in just a second. Now, don't forget, this weekend is second to the last tournament on the Conowingo Open Trail Tournament down in the Conowingo Pool this Sunday. Starts right away at daybreak, whenever that is, 6:30 probably now, blast off is, and it'll run till 2:30, something like that. $100 for the entry fee. A lot of fun, a lot of good guys. Everybody's still talking about those tournaments. They love them down there. They're having a great time with them. And there's been a lot of different winners. That's the thing, Nick. It's not the same guys winning all the time.
And that's what makes people keep showing up, because you feel like you got a chance.
Yeah, you're fishing against the local yokels, but they're not always catching them. It's a body of water that it's anybody's game.
Right. That's a great body of water.
It's a great body of water. It's tough, and I think when it's tough like that, it's anybody's game. But the thing is that everybody's catching fish, Nick, this year. It's really good fishing down there right now. So
now I got to ask you,
yeah,
do you think is it because the fish are back and plentiful? The anglers are figuring it out. What's your
well, on the Susquehanna River, I think it's very, especially between the dams. When you're dealing with between dams and you have that human element affecting the water, you have big ups and downs and swings, with the fishing. And this is just an upswing, I think, that we're having on that pool. And I think it's going to go on for a few years because they had great spawns down there. And, there's a lot more fish around. So guys are catching a lot of fish.
Good.
They're maybe not all big ones, but there's a lot of 1.5 to 2.5 pound fish being caught. And a 10-pound bag is pretty common down there with 5 fish. Now, you say that, that's not a big bag. Well, for that area, that's a nice bag of fish. The tournaments are being won in the summertime with 14 to 17 pounds, but it drops off pretty quick, gets in that 10, 11, 12 pound range pretty quickly. And there's a lot of those bags being weighed in. So everybody's getting into it. They're in the mix. But that's what I really like about it is it's not the same guys winning every weekend. It seems to be, a very good spread of guys winning. So that's the deal. So it's on an upswing, Nick, to answer your question. Definitely in that area, there's more fish around than there's been. Good vegetation in that body of water right now. It's been there for a couple of years. I think that's really helping. And the bait, my God, there's so much food down there. The shad balls are like acres.
That always helps.
Yeah, you can get on the right ones, man. It's magical. So, Monday near Harrisburg, every damn cast was coming back with grass. Matthew Weimer. Well, we're going to get into some of that today too for September. When you're dealing with a lot of grassy areas, I mean, this is what's happening. This stuff dies and it breaks up and it starts to move, and you got to deal with it. Now, hopefully, like today, we've been getting pounded with giant thunderstorms, and if that goes up through the valley where we're at, it'll have an opportunity to bring the water up 7, 8, 9 feet in Harrisburg or, one of those places. It'll come up, 4, 5, 6 feet. And that's like a vacuum cleaner, Nick.
It is. And that's going to help out a lot of people. I was thinking about Matthew's comment there, and it's interesting because it's frustrating.
Oh.
But, what's most frustrating about it is because when you go out that day, you have in your mind what baits you want to throw. Mm-hmm. But then that floating grass doesn't allow you to throw some of them baits very efficiently.
No.
So you got to change it up.
Yeah.
And that's interesting because I've been there, done that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, it does limit you to what you can throw. Of course, a lot of treble hook baits are kind of out, but there's still things you can throw. You can bounce the bottom with some tubes and some jigs, and you can, there's a lot of things you can throw a Zoom Super Fluke in the grass and get through it pretty easily. I know I like to throw that a lot. Swim baits, that are rigged with belly weighted hooks.
Oh yeah.
That's something that won't catch the grass. The problem with the belly weighted hooks with the spinners, Nick, is the grass gets caught up in that thing.
It really does. And that's frustrating.
Yeah. So, you got to keep it clean. Your rigs got to be nice and clean. So there's things you can do to kind of limit the amount of grass you pick up. But then, I've also noticed too that if I can pattern the fish really close and get a really good pattern, that if I can get a bait in there and get 3 feet out of it before it grasses up, and if I make that kind of cast where the percentages are way up, then it doesn't matter if it grasses up because I covered that percentage, the higher percentage of water quickly, with a clean bait.
That's a good point.
Yeah. If the fish are tight to pockets, you gotta be able to throw, make accurate casts, get it in there, get those first couple of cranks, hope for the best, get the bite, then you're all right. If you don't, you just reel it back, slap the water.
Try again.
Yeah. That's the thing you got to be careful though, slapping the water.
I know.
I mean, I don't mind it because you guys break lures all the time and come and have to buy more, but You got to be careful slapping the water. You don't want to slap too hard.
I'm guilty.
Yeah. So you don't want to, and this is what I always say, Nick. When you slap the water, you kind of almost want to skim the water with your trebles.
So there's an art form to it.
There is.
Nice.
If you slap too hard, a few of those times the paint starts to chip off.
It's true.
On some of these baits, you'll start slapping real hard. But if you could just kind of skim it and just be able to get the treble hooks and maybe a little bit of the bait that's.
But what happens, Mike, is that first time you try to do what you're saying, skim, you start to get madder and madder. And next thing you know, the whole bait's in the water and you're like, but yeah, we start that way.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, you get good at it when you fish like a lot of the months, the month of September and some of these grassy bodies of water. You get used to the grass, and it's frustrating, but you just kind of know it's there, and it's going to be a problem. And then even in lakes, it starts to break up.
Absolutely.
And it's worse in lakes because there's no current to push it out of the way. It just kind of stays there until it gets waterlogged and sinks.
Yeah.
Or a good wind blows and it might push it over, out of the way. But
that happens a lot.
Yeah. So you hope for windy days when that starts happening.
That's right.
So anyway, there you go, Matthew. It was a big old thing on grass for you, dead floating grass. What else we got? We got Robert Rively in the house. How you doing, buddy? JP Harrell, how you? Yeah. You slap a DT, the lip is coming off. That's exactly right. You're right, Joseph. That's what I'm saying. If you get good at it, you can just kind of skim the water with your trebles, and you can kind of get the grass or most of it off, on that one little. It's not a splash, it's more of a twitching, a skimming of the water. That's what you want to do. Fish between the grass, John Copwell. If you're that good, you're that good.
Well, with the way they're saying about forward view, you just see each blade and you just
go right through it. Yeah.
Dissect your way through.
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
just kidding.
Yeah, just kidding. Well, again, it's a whole nother week went by since our last podcast, and Nick, there's been ample discussion on that.
It doesn't end. It's
just not ending, and all these angles that these guys are coming from. But I can tell you this. A lot of the guys, I think, who started out as negative are realizing that, that they have to step their game up.
Absolutely.
And I mean, it's a technology that's going to be around forever. And, but there were some great, I love listening to it.
I do too. It's interesting at the level that they're talking about, they all have access to it. So if they all have access to it and it's legal, if you don't have it, shame on you.
Yeah.
Would you say?
Well, yeah, that's exactly.
Now, below that level is where you get into, can somebody afford it?
Right.
Now, that could be a gray area. But at the level they're talking about, if we're specifically talking about the top tier level, they all have access to the same amount of stuff.
Well, you guys can go to our show last week where we kind of discussed it a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
And you'll see I talked about a guy named Slick Johnson. And Slick, he fishes the Tennessee River chain down in Alabama. And he's really good. He's won a lot of money down there. And he was negative, kind of negative about it. Then he kind of swung around a little bit on it. But his thing is like, he's not very good with it. No. I mean, he struggles with it like most of us do. And that's where he kind of came back around and said, listen, a lot of people out there don't know how to use it in the lower ranks.
Right. So
really, how unfair is it? Just because you have it on the boat doesn't mean you know what you're doing with it.
Well, and that's where I was kind of going with it. I think, and Matthew Weimer, he asked a great question. Are they getting free electronics? The pros aren't all getting free electronics because some of them might have been with a certain brand and then the forward facing wasn't deemed as good as another brand. So they had to kind of expose themselves and go with whatever they think is going to help them stay on tour.
Yeah.
But good point for what you're saying is at the lower tier, if you want to call it, your Bass Opens, your weekend series, and all that stuff, where not everybody might be able to afford it. That's where you can get into, in my mind, if you think it should be or not. Because if you don't have it at this point, you might not be as competitive in certain tournaments. Not all tournaments,
no,
but certain tournaments.
Hey, I don't hear anybody complaining about guys sitting over top of a fish in a spawning tournament.
No.
Sitting there beating on the head of a spawning tournament where you're looking at the fish and you're seeing the fish with your eyes. I don't see anybody raising hell about, oh, we shouldn't have spawning. You can't be looking at fish. And, I don't see that side of it, So, I mean, that's kind of the discussions that are happening, are they're bringing up all these different things. I mean, spawning tournaments in some of these circuits are half the year.
Well, I was in a spawning tournament this year up at the St. Lawrence River.
Yeah.
And I mean, this is not an exaggeration. It is what it is. But if you didn't do the flogging, you were really fishing for the bottom third, because you had to be on 6 pound.
Yeah.
I would say 4.5 to 6 pound average.
Yeah.
To win or to be in the top 10.
Yeah.
So at that point, I changed that. I would say at the end of the day, maybe we need to have an option for a lot of our other anglers that don't have the finances. Maybe there needs to be a league out there that caters to that.
I don't have a problem with that either.
Yeah.
That was like the thing that Major League Fishing did with the 18-foot boats with the 150s on it.
Yeah, I mean,
kind of bring it back home and bring it to the working man.
That's right.
The guy who that has that boat and thinks that that's in a disadvantage. I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind seeing that. But then it'd be hard to do. But there is a circuit down in the Alabama area that did deem forward-facing illegal in their tournaments.
See, and that's what I think is funny, because, okay, that's what they decided to do.
Yeah.
But even if Bassmaster Elites or Bass Pro Tour would decide to ban it in their specific high-end tournaments,
mm-hmm.
your smaller organizations can do whatever they want.
Yeah.
So they don't have to go that route.
No.
And a lot of us, I'm a blue-collar guy.
Yeah.
If you're a blue-collar guy and you went out and you spent $3,000 on a forward-facing unit,
yeah,
you want to justify that money. So it's going to be hard for a lot of people to say, oh, we can't use it. It's interesting.
Yeah.
But I would like to see an organization offer something like the original Major League Fishing for those that want to do that. That'd be cool.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's some more of our 2 cents in that. And I'm sure we'll be talking about this. This is great off-season chatter, and it's going to be off-season chatter for a while. So we'll be bringing it back up again. I'm sure down the road, and we'll see who's doing what and which way they're going. But I don't see it going anywhere, and I don't see it. I see guys getting better with it, and I see guys saying, "Okay, if this is what I got to do, this is what I got to do," and they're going to get better with it. But as far as our local tournaments down here, I got it on my boat on the Conowinga Pool. I only ever won one tournament down there. I fished 6 or 7 of them. If I had that advantage, I should have won every single one of them, right? I'm just saying. If that's what they're saying, if it's that kind of advantage, I should have won every single tournament.
Yeah, I mean, that's hard to say. I look at it this way. For us, for what we are all about, what's cool is we can still talk about other techniques because they work. Yeah. Proven techniques that we all love to do. And I actually think that for Bassmasters and other organizations, they have to change the way they cover the tournament.
Absolutely.
When they do live. Make it more enjoyable for the viewer.
Yeah.
And that way we'll watch it. But what's cool about it though, Mike?
Yeah.
Tackle Shop Live, there's all kinds of ways to catch me.
Matthew, I was just kidding about that forward facing on my boat. I got it, but it takes a lot more than just forward facing to win a tournament. Let me tell you.
They get hardcore, Mike.
Yeah, I know. Jumping all over my back on that one, Matthew. That's okay though. I can handle it. That's not an argument. I agree. All right. So very good. Yes, Tammy agrees with you, Nick. All right, let's get into the show here. We got some tackle talk we're going to roll on, and this is a favorite part of our show. Yes, yes, yes. Here on Tackle Shop Live, we are a tackle shop, and we love to talk about tackle, and this is no different than any other show. As Nick mentioned to you on Pre-Tackle Shop Live, the 7. Now, for you guys that don't know, 7 is a bait casting reel that came out, and it was the brainchild of St. Croix. This is their reel. It's a St. Croix reel. They call it 7 for the 70 years in business and the 7 whatever other things that they do. They have 3 7s.
There's a lot of It's pretty cool when you do the research on it.
Yeah. They had the name. The name comes from the different things they did. That was 7. 7 things that they did, and as a company. So they came out with the Reel 7. And back in the day, I don't know if you guys remember, George and I went to Alabama and fished with the St. Croix guys. Our rep group took us down and fished on a plantation down there. And before we left, the sales manager in our area came over and dropped off 2 of these reels and said, "We want you to put it through the test." So this is exactly what we did. We took this reel out. We told you it was just a great reel. So I'm going to go over some of the features of it, which George gave me the notes on, which is cool. But the 7 reel, it's a 4 ball bearing plus 1 reel. So it's 4 stainless steel ball bearings in there. The plus 1 is your roller bearing, which gives you the infinite anti-reverse on the reel. So that's good for that reel. Durability. That gives you the five ball bearings in the reel that give you the durability. And really, that's the key. 5 bearings is what you have to have the reel in a bait caster put up with wear and tear and hold up for a long period of time. You got to have at least 5 bearings. That's the thing. So this has it. It has them in all the crucial spots, on the spool, on the handle, in various spots in the reel where you see a lot of wear happening. It has the bearings where it needs to be. The other thing we noticed about this reel when you pick it up, it's a 1-piece graphite frame. So it's a light reel. It's not real heavy at all. And he didn't put down the weight, although it's probably on a box. But it's a nice light reel. It's not a heavy reel. And that's the other thing you notice about it is a little bit lighter than what you feel in some of these aluminum frame reels. So it's kind of a cool graphite color. It comes in. Oh, and the other really big thing about this, I think that really puts this reel and it's going to give you that longevity, because I always look at longevity, right, Nick.
Absolutely.
How long you can have this reel, how does it perform, and the durability of it. Yep. This has a hardened brass pinion gear in here and a hardened brass main gear that sit in there. So it's durable gear system. It's not going to get sloppy real quick on you. It's going to hold up really well for that. So that's another feature you're going to see with this. This reel is pretty cool because it's an all mag setup. And when George and I were fishing it, what was really cool was we didn't really use the cast control knob at all. And that's the thing about this reel. This is almost like the SV Daiwa reel, where you just put tension to keep the spool centered, but it's still real super free, as you can see right there. And then all you really use is this magnetic dial on here. Now this is set on free. And I'm telling you, I had a guy out today. We sold him one, and he wanted to understand the system. And I took him out back, and we threw I think it was a 3/8 ounce crankbait. And I had that set on 50%, which is half of the braking. And we were chucking that bait like 65, 70 feet. And I was really surprised how that thing was really flying. So then I took it and I backed it down a couple clicks and I threw it again. And I got a couple more feet out of it. And I backed it down a couple of clicks. And I had this thing down to really a quarter setting of magnets on this reel. And I was getting 100 feet cast, no problem at all. And no backlash. Very, very easy to cast this reel. That's the thing that I noticed when we fished it for 2 days, was how easy this reel casts. My concern about this reel is the graphite frame, the durability of that. How's that going to hold up? Aluminum frames are designed to be rigid, no flex, and that keeps everything in line, and the durability is going to hold up. Now, is this going to be that or not? I don't know. They talk about this frame as being a very high-tech graphite frame, a very rigid graphite frame, cuts down on the weight, but really adds rigidity to it. So we'll see how the longevity holds up on this reel. But I can tell you right out of the box, it's easy to set up. It casts like an absolute dream. And they are here. And it comes in a 6:6 to 1 gear ratio in right and left hand. It comes in a 7:1 gear ratio in right and left hand, and it also comes in an 8 gear ratio in right and left hand. So you can get them in all the different right and left hand configurations, and it's pretty cool. I mean, it's a reel that I mean, I was impressed with it when I fished. I only have 2 days on it, but I was really impressed with it. It's got a graphite handle on it. It's got nice EVA handle grips, so you can hold on to it real nice. What do you think, Nick?
Yeah, I've used it up at the St. Lawrence. I used it locally, kind of put it through its paces. I was using an 8:1 to 1 gear ratio version, right-handed. It does come in right and left. And I was Carolina rigging with it. And what was cool about it is with the Carolina rig, especially when you're fishing on the river, it is tough on reels.
Yeah.
When you're doing that. And
yeah,
the way the fish take it, the way you're fighting that current and all that good stuff, it really held up well. The other thing I was doing with the 6:3 to 1 was jerkbait fishing. And again, I boated 5 or 6 on the jerkbait, really held up well with that. Been throwing it.
Yeah.
I haven't had any issues, but again, your concerns with longevity, I haven't used it long enough to be able to answer that.
It's a brand new reel, so we're going to see. It's always that. And any brand new reel comes out, you always wonder how it's going to hold up. Now, somebody's asking about price. The beauty of this reel is it's $120 retail. So it's priced right. It's priced for us all to be able to buy it real affordable. And I think at that price range, it is unbelievable how it casts. It's unbelievable that it performs like it does for $120. So it's one of those things that the reason it's in the shop is it's a big time bang for your buck. And I think that's the big thing with this reel. Is it, the Corrado, like the Corrado is for the Shimano. This is what the 7's going to be. What this reel, the 7 bait caster, is going to be for St. Croix. It's going to be that reel that they're going to see a lot of them out there, and everybody's going to be able to purchase them and get them affordably. And for $120, I'm telling you, you're getting a lot of reel for the dollar there. So that's pretty cool.
It's a rock solid reel. It's very easy to set up and very basic. I think for me, when I'm fishing, I just like something that's going to hold up, work great, and easy to use. Easy to use, and that's what we have here. Something very basic to use.
So check it out. It's all in stock right now. You can come into the shop and spin it around. We do have them on our website. You can go to sfttackle.com and you can check them out there. They launched them on Wednesday. We had them on Thursday. So we are ready to roll with them, and we've been pumping them out the door. So check them out. I think you're going to be pretty pleased with them. I think when you finally cast them, you'll understand what that magnetic system is. It's really a hardcore magnetic system that we like. So 7.
I like it.
By St. Croix.
I like it.
St. Croix is a rod company. Now they're going to be a real company. So we're going to see how they roll with it. The first time they did it, they failed miserably. I think they learned a lot from their lessons, and I think they took their time. They hired a design guy, which we had dinner with down at ICAST.
Right.
The design guy is a guy who is, engineered stuff, and he kind of reverse engineered a lot of stuff on these reels. And he was telling me the story about how he did this and how he did that with the reel to get it to perform the way it does. And it was pretty impressive. So they're doing it right.
Yeah. For those of you, that are local, if you see me at a local lake, local river, stop on over to the boat, let you try it out.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Next up on the block, I'm super excited about this thing. I know Nick is.
Oh, yeah.
This is the Z-Man Goby bait. It's the TRD Gobies by Z-Man, and you can see it. It's a real nice small profile, nice fat front to it, flat kind of bottom to it, and a real narrow, skinny tail. Now, anytime you see that in a piece of plastic, everybody goes, oh, hell, that's not going to last long at all. Them fish are going to bite those tails off. Well, this is Z-Man plastic. So, Nick, how about it? Huh? Not going to break. You can pull this thing, rip it around, catch a lot of fish on it. You're not going to break that thing. So, the Goby Bryant, this is the Goby Bryant color that we like so much. But really, that body, the body of this thing, the way it's fat, the way it swims, it's going to be a nice subtle bait with a nice subtle tail movement on there. So that's going to be a big deal with this also. So I was really excited about this. For us guys around here, think about it. Susquehanna River.
That's right.
I think of a stonecat.
Yeah, absolutely.
When you're river fishing for smallies, this is a stonecat profile to me. So I think it's going to be a great stonecat presentation for the river fishermen around here. Putting it on your favorite jig head, your favorite weedless jig head, putting it out there. I think it's going to be just a great presentation for that. They call it a goby, but there's a lot of body styles that you can put that to in different fishing situations. So around here, this is going to be a great stonecat imitator. What do you think of it, Nick?
I really like it. When we were at ICAST, they had a tank there that you could they were all rigged, and you could put this in the tank and try it out. And what I thought was cool about it is when the TRD first came out, what did we all do? We all kind of laughed. Like,
yeah,
it's nothing. What is it? This thing is very subtle, like you said, Mike, but it has a different look to it, and it's going to be a fish catching machine. There's no doubt in my mind.
I don't know how they're not going to eat it.
I like it. I like it a lot, and I think it's something different. And if we're taking notice, what's doing well in tournaments and all this stuff, it's all finesse tactics.
Yeah.
Super finesse right there.
Right now it comes in one size. It's a
2.4 inch.
2.4 inch, right. So it comes in one size right now. Do I see it coming out in the future in other sizes? Absolutely. I think you're going to have a 3.5 inch and a 4.5 inch probably within no time at all with those. I think I have a pile of them over there, Nick. Yeah. So you have all your good colors. You got your Canada crawl. You got your peanut butter and jelly. You got your hot snake. So all the good TRD colors that you guys like to fish in Z-Man, they have it. The deal, of course, green pumpkin, black, all those great colors that you can use for a lot of different situations. It's all there. They got all the colors, and I was thinking about it the other day, and the 2.4 inch size is even that more finessey than what a lot of guys are throwing, but I wouldn't call it a bait finesse size because the way you can rig it on your heads all the way up to 1/4 ounce to get deep, or even 3/8 ounce to get deep on it, kind of adds to that nice shape. The front of it is squared off nice, and it's nice and fat, so that you can put a big jig head on there and it doesn't stick out and make it look real stupid. it fits on a big jig head really nice. And that was one of their keys, was to make it a flat nose in the front to match up to a 1/3 ounce. I think that's their biggest head, is a 1/3 ounce. It matches up to that real nice, so you can fish in 18, 20 foot of water and get it down on the bottom 25 feet. So, but it can also be a bait finesse.
Yeah, Mike, can you scroll up? Somebody asked a question here. We're not too far up. I want to make sure. Right here, Kenny Clemmer.
Yeah.
What about Blue Marsh? That's a great question. I think, honestly, this size right here will work at Blue Marsh, and here's why. Because the fish are getting pressured in a lot of local community holes, and what's getting those fish to bite more is small finesse techniques, and something like this will work. Now, I do think you need to look at your watercolors a little bit, but yes, absolutely. I think you're good.
Greg Dirt.
Hey, it's how I roll.
It's comes, all powerful things come in all different sizes, and this is a fishing powerhouse over here, and so I don't care about size. He flat out catches them, and it's don't judge a book by its cover.
What's really funny, because now I don't do it as much anymore, but when I would set the hook, I'd leave my feet, and I get a little taller then, like.
Oh yeah,
but
yeah, But you could definitely, somebody's asking whether you could throw this on a bait caster. Yeah, when you get to the heavier weights, it's not a problem at all. But it could be a great BFS setup. If you have a nice BFS and you want to do it on bait caster, it's going to be great for that. But I think it's really an 8-pound test or lighter type of a presentation bait, to get the full effect out of it. This is a bait that wants to fish close to the bottom, and you don't want to be floating too high off the bottom with this bait. This is a bottom bouncer, so the light lines will help you get down nice. And as with all finesse TRD style fishing, Nick, and people I think are losing focus of what this is all about. The lightest possible weight that you can use and still kind of feel the contact of the bottom is what you want to do with TRD fishing.
Right.
It's not that bait that you throw out and thump, pick it up, thump, pick it up, thump. It's the slightest tick of the bottom that you're looking for. So when you look at the brand new Z-Man rod, Nick, the Tennessee handle rod, and 5'9" and 5'4", and you laugh at it because it doesn't have a reel seat on it, and you laugh at it because it's so small and so light, that is the originators of how this is supposed to be fished, and how these guys log 2,000 and 3,000 fish a year on it.
Right.
That the technique is a finesse technique. It's a technique which it's the lightest possible weight you can use and still have some semblance, just a little understanding of the bottom, that you're ticking along real super light and easy. That's when it shines. So the small jig heads and the whole idea behind this, light line, 8-pound test, 6-pound test, that kind of thing, that goes along with the whole package. You're going to catch more fish with the lighter jig head weight.
Yeah, and I want to add something to that too. You know how everybody's using forward facing right now? Most of those fish that they're catching in the pro level they're suspending fish. Yeah. But what you still can't see real well yet is fish that are laying on the bottom. And if you're at a local lake like the one we just had mentioned, or other lakes or rivers around here, there still could be fish at those areas on the bottom. And a lot of times when you bring something over those select points or cover or whatever, you see a fish pop up out of nowhere.
Yeah.
It's laying on the bottom. And that's where I think baits like this are going to make those fish bite when they don't even feel like it.
Oh, absolutely. That's why it's so effective, But I think we all get kind of all of us have gotten away from really the idea of what jig finesse is all about. That true finesse TRD fishing. TRD fishing it's different. It's different than anything else. So it's good to remind ourselves of how effective it really is if you do it right. Days where you're out there and it's windy and it's hard to feel the bottom and you can't feel it. It's challenging. It's not easy. It's not an easy way of fishing. So it takes a little bit of practice to get it right. So, but that's what that's all about right there. Real excited about it. We've sold an absolute truckload of these things. There may be some zeros on our website now, but there's a lot of the colors are still in stock. But they're going like crazy, and guys, they see it, they know, they understand what it's going to do. It's going to be that bait. It's going to be that bait that guys are catching a lot of fish on. It's not just one of these, oh, okay, this guy's designed this. It's going to be great. This is going to be great.
Tell you what, Z-Man really, even the next thing we're going to show here.
Yeah.
Z-Man really does do a great job at coming out with baits that are not just a filler.
Yeah.
They're there to catch fish.
Yeah. I like what Jeff Reed and Bo Stevens said. It's a lot like the old Charlie Brewer's rods. The Z-Man rod is a super hard sell for us here in the shop because of the generation of people that are a lot of the generations of people are coming in here. They've never seen anything like it.
Right.
A rod with no reel seat. I mean, what the hell do you do with it? They don't understand the old school way of putting a reel on with the perfect balance point and a black electrical tape and how that works so well on putting that reel on that rod and putting it exactly where it needs to be to the precise point of perfect balance in your hand. And the idea behind that is when you're so finessey, the perfect balance in your rod increases sensitivity. You're not fighting the rod balance, and you're not, which is taken away from the tightness of the line and the sensitivity of the rod. And if you don't believe me, just try an unbalanced rod out and then try one that's perfectly balanced. You see guys like who was the guy that was big on that? Gary Yamamoto. He used to put these quarters in the back of his rods, and I was so fortunate one time to see him at a tournament, and I went over and was talking to him, and I said, "Hey, can I feel one of your rods?" I said, "I want to see how you balance them," and he's like, "Absolutely." And he gave me the rod, and it was actually almost heavier in the back a little bit, like the way he likes to tune it, but there was no tip. You felt no tip, and it just almost felt like you were straight. It would give you straight to the bait. You know what I'm saying, Nick?
Absolutely.
So that's the idea behind that and why it's so weird.
I think it's funny, how things that worked years ago slowly come back around.
Yeah.
Because they worked. They were proven.
They were proven by some freaking hardcore fishermen.
Right.
I mean, Charlie Brewer, for God's sakes. I mean, that man is a finesse fishing genius. And all his rods were cork-handled rods with no reel seat. It wasn't even rings on cork. There were some companies that thought, well, that's a hard sell with that. I'm going to put aluminum rings on it.
Right.
And that was called rings on cork. So some companies did rings on cork. Cotton Cordell, if anybody remembers Cotton Cordell, one of his favorite rods was a Tennessee handle, that's what that's called, a Tennessee handle. And it was, but it had rings on cork. That's the way he did his. And he said, if you don't like it, cut it off with aluminum cutters.
But you're saying even with the tape, it doesn't wreck your cork.
No, it doesn't. You think it would get all sticky and gluey. And
right.
I don't know if it reacts it doesn't heat up. Cork doesn't heat up like it does in metal, metal heats up, and that's where the glue starts to separate from the tape. This stuff doesn't heat up. It doesn't heat from the inside. It's always cool,
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like cork handles in the wintertime. You don't freeze your hands off on a metal reel seat.
That's true.
So a lot of guys like cork handles for the wintertime fishing.
Makes sense.
Doesn't it? Yeah. So, you think it'd be a gooey mess. I fished them for a long, long time, and I've had tape on one of the rods that was actually a G Loomis rod. I had tape on that thing for, I don't know, 8 years before I changed it.
Really?
Yeah. We taped it up right, pulling it, stretching it black. And the reason why I use black electrical tape for you younger people out there that don't know about these handles. Matter of fact, Nick, go over and grab one of those handles.
Yeah.
But the reason why you use black electrical tape is for the stretch factor, pulling it real tight and stretching it up and around. And when you lock it in there, you'll see this is a Tennessee handle rod. It has no rings on it. It's just a cork handle. I mean, and when you look at where the guides are, it's just, there's nothing to line up. You just line the reel up the best you can on that and make it perfect. But you could put that reel all the way to the front. You can put it right here. Some guys, I remember one guy who liked to fish his all the way to the back here. And that's the way he held in front of the reel. And that's what was comfortable to him. I like the perfect balance point, but you can balance this rod so that the tip weight, when you put the reel on there, the tip weight goes away and it becomes a neutrally balanced rod. There's no tip weight at all. You wouldn't feel any pull down of the tip. It would just put it perfectly up in your hand. And that's what this is all about. It's about strapping that reel on to the perfect balance point to get the perfect amount of the maximum amount of sensitivity out of the rod and feel every tiny little thing with it. And that's what these rods do. It doesn't have to be a $700 rod to do that. It just has to be good graphite, and that balance point needs to come up, and it needs to be almost a direct feel right to the lure. And that's exactly how a properly balanced rod gives you. So, but anyway, for your young guys, you took the tape and you held the reel on there and you started one thing and you pulled it real tight and you wrapped it around, and then you grabbed it on this side and you pulled it real tight and you wrapped it around and you let a little out and you pulled it almost to the point of breaking, and you got that first layer on there. And then the second layer over top, you didn't have to pull quite as tight, but you still wanted it nice and tight, and you would wrap back over it and your reel would hang perfectly where it was supposed to at the perfect spot. And plus it felt good.
Yeah.
Felt real good. You didn't want to build it up with a lot of tape, but once down and once back was plenty enough. You were still holding good sensitivity. It wasn't deadening the sensitivity in your hand. So pretty cool. Very, very cool. What we got here? We got to see what we got. Use colored electrical tape. Absolutely, Robert. Then you could have red, you could have blue, all kinds of cool handles on there. Yeah. Joshua, yeah, I bet you were, yeah, I think you're old enough to fish one of them. Absolutely. Yep. But it's funny, being in the tackle business, Nick, with all the people that walk in, you wouldn't believe what they say with that handle.
Well, some have probably never seen it.
They were like, what in the heck is this? And they just put it right back down and walk away.
And some probably know exactly what it is.
And there's guys that come in like, oh, Tennessee handle rods are back, and and they pick it up, and that's the ones we sell them to is the older school guys.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I've never seen that before. I'm not gonna lie, but when we went to ICAST and they left us feel it, it made sense to me.
Yeah,
I could see exactly when we got to throw the baits out with it. You could feel the sensitivity in a different way, which it's like, okay, I get what these guys are thinking.
Yeah. Some
people are just so visionary with things.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Matthew, the movement in it, I mean, when you lock that down, it gets surprisingly rigid. Is there some flex in it? Absolutely. There's a little flex in there, but it's nothing that is like bothering some to you. You'll be surprised how solid that thing gets on there. It gets on there real solid when you stretch that tape.
What size reel we putting on there, Mike?
It's a finesse rod, so you want to, those guys are throwing 2000s or 1000s.
Okay.
Because you're fishing 6 pound, 4 pound, 6 pound, and some 8. So they're fishing in a real super light. So imagine a 2000 Shimano Vanford on that thing.
Talk about sensitivity.
They're talking about like no weight. The rod weighs nothing.
Right.
And the reel on there weighs nothing. It's just incredible lightness and sensitivity. It increases the sensitivity like crazy. And if you don't think weight has an issue with sensitivity, it absolutely does. Transmission of that is going to be, of your bite's going to be much better on a lighter rod. That's why $700 rods are so light.
Exactly.
Thinner wall means the transmission of vibration doesn't have to go through as much material. Therefore, it's transferred into your hand more crisper and cleaner. Okay. So a thin walled blank is what does that. And then you've got to talk about resins. And the thing about thin walled blanks and why they become real expensive is because the resins they use to roll and the glues that they use to roll in there has to be something that they can squeeze out and has to be strong enough with just a little teeny bit of it.
Exactly.
And hold the rod together. So that's what's really hard about making a really light rod that doesn't explode. And G. Loomis, that's where they came into it back in the 80s, when Gary Loomis had to invent his own machine to roll the blanks with more pressure than anything he could find to buy. So he designed his own machines to be able to roll more of the glue out and resin out of the blank, so that there, instead of streaks of glue in what you get in most blanks, there was just dots. But then that glue, for one dot to hold the blank together, that glue had to be really, really high tech. And that's where the cost came in.
So he was way ahead of his time.
Well, that's why he's the king of graphite, you know, from back in the day. And the reason he was king of it, because he was an engineer. He knew how to make machines.
Yep.
And I think he came from the engineering, you know, more, not so much rods, but, you know, from some other industry where he was great at making his own machines for whatever they needed him for.
Right.
So he's an engineer on that side of things. But I had great conversations with him back in the day, you know, when he would be traveling around to the shows, and he would stop in the booth and we would talk to him about technology, and he explained a lot of that stuff to us and why his rods were at the time ultra expensive. And everybody always puts G. Loomis and high price in the same sentence.
Right. And
he explained why they are. And he said, you guys need to learn this, because when somebody walks into your store and says, why is this rod $350 or $500 or, you know, $400? Why is that? Well, then you know, that's what you have to explain, that
the technology
and what that technology does for the final feel of the rod.
Right.
To get the most sensitivity out of it and lightness.
Yeah, it's not by accident.
Not by accident.
Hey, Mike, we got something else here.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool.
We go off on tangents, bro.
Well, that's how we roll.
George will be cutting us down big time on this stuff.
Well, you know what?
That's the way we roll.
That's the way we roll.
Yeah, that is. That's the way we roll. I think he'd be proud of us so far.
Yeah, he's not yelling at us on here yet.
I don't think he knows how to get on it on his telephone to watch it. So we can kind of say whatever we want.
That's right.
Puddle Jumper. Hey, Mike and Nick, how you doing? John Pennington. That rod, the backbone is so this is the smaller one, John. This is the 5.4 medium light. So it's a medium light rod, but it's a fast taper, and maybe even a little bit less than fast taper, I would say. So it's not extra fast where you're into a lot of backbone right away, but it's got, because of the taper of the rod, the way this is, see how it bends further back into the rod a little bit? It's pretty powerful for medium light. It's a absolutely true medium light. I think the other one is a 5.9 medium, possibly. That's a little bit longer, and you start to get more of a true fast bend on it. But again, understand, this rod was designed to throw a TRD head, a small hook. Where's that one with the hook on it? Anyway, here's the hook. A very small, thin wire, needly point. So it didn't take much to get it set. But meanwhile, you were fishing at bait and you're feeling stuff you wouldn't necessarily feel with any other rod. So the power of this rod is enough to get that hook and that system to work properly. And the guy who invented this, Drew, he has Drew's Crawl color. That's how long he's been around with them in a TRD Z-Man. The story is he broke his favorite rod, and he couldn't find one because it was so old. It was a 17-year-old rod, and or older. I don't have the dates exact. And then when he broke it, he couldn't find one anywhere, and he went to Z-Man and said, "We need to find a rod for this." He said, "This is the reason why I catch 2,000 to 3,000 fish a year." It's a lot of fish.
It's a good problem to have.
Yeah. So, you know, they said, "Sure, we need to make a Ned rod," and that's what this is. This is Drew's Ned, ultimate Ned rig rod, and that's to his specifications, which he was one of those guys who worked alongside of Ned. Should know that guy's name. guy who actually invented the Ned rig. They worked side to side together and started fishing at the same time. And Drew was there to help and fish the baits and design that whole system. And there you have it. This is the last part of it is the rod. So yes, it's stiff enough for that, but it is medium light. And I think the other one's medium light too. It's just 5.9, gives you a little bit more leverage. All right, price on the rod, Jeff. They're light. They're good graphite. Okay, brother. And they're $169. So not horrible. It's very affordable. Not a horrible price. Little bit up there, but not horrible. And we missed George tonight. Puddle jumper fishing. Yeah.
What's the argument?
Was the best. Yeah. 2 different opinions, but all great information. Yeah. I mean, George and I, we argue, but it's not argue. It's more like proving your point kind of stuff, you know. And that's what we've always been good at together. We've always agreed on a lot of stuff because we kind of learned a lot of stuff together. But we disagree when, he takes something to another level, or I take something to another level, and he's, he doesn't understand why that I took it to that next level, whether it's a technique or whether it's a bait or whatever, or if even in business, he might take something to another level and I just don't know what the hell he's talking about. Or I say something, he don't know what I'm talking about, and we hash it out colorfully.
Hey, I enjoy it behind the camera too. I mean, that's great.
Yeah, colorfully. So, yeah.
We still want to see you and George do a live tournament against each other.
On the water tournament.
On the water tournament.
We need to work that out. It's just so hard to figure out how to do that. I'd like to do it like 4 hours, or not 4 hours, but basically like they do on Challenge Match Fishing.
Yeah, was it with Joe Thomas?
Yeah.
Joe Thomas Fishing.
Joe Thomas Fishing, yeah. You would do like 4 hours in the front of the boat.
That's right.
And then the next guy would get his 4 hours.
That would be awesome video right there.
It would be fun.
Now, if you won the coin toss, Mike, would you defer or would you take the front of the boat first?
I would defer because, I mean, George is not here. So, and I know he won't go back and listen to this because he doesn't know how to. Okay. So I'm safe to say this without him knowing, because I don't like him to know this. But the one thing about him is he can find fish much better than I can.
Oh.
All right. I can catch him when he finds them much better than he can.
So you're game planning here. I see where you're going with this.
Oh yeah. I can catch him much better. Now, I can find fish too. I'm not saying I can't find fish and I can't figure out my own pattern, but he can do it a lot better than I can and really see what I'm always missing. I'm always missing something. And that's why this past couple of years we've been fishing tournaments together, and I just learned to shut my mouth. And just after the tournaments, like, we always do decent.
That it makes sense now. I'm putting it together for you, or with what you guys do, it works. So
yeah, he's very good at finding fish. And who's the bigger drinker? George and I trained together. So I think we're very equal. We're very equal. We've done years and years of training together, Nick.
That's right.
Miller Lite, lots of Miller Lights. Used to be Yingling Loggers.
Oh, you went to the Light then.
Then we went to Light.
That's
and
right.
Yeah, we yeah, so we do well together. I wouldn't say he's better than me, or I wouldn't say I'm better than him when it comes to that.
But you are kind of in a way saying that you can catch fish better.
Yeah. Wrestling match with Dean. Now George is a lover. He's not a fighter. Yeah, he wouldn't do well. Yeah.
We got to make the live happen.
It would be. It'd be fun. But he does. Yeah, I mean, I would definitely defer. Don't ever tell him, Nick. Listen, you guys, you can't tell him that's my strategy.
I would like for him to win the coin toss, take it or defer for you,
Yeah.
and then see what would happen.
Yeah. It's funny when we fish together, when he and I fish together, and if we go to the upper river, then he kind of defers to me, you know, and then he starts in after I, you know, if I'm not producing like I normally do,
Right.
then he'll jump in, you know what I mean? And then when we go to like a new lake somewhere or the Chesapeake Bay or Conowinga Pool, like he can break things down a lot better than I can in those situations. And I've learned a ton off of him because of it, and I became a much better fisherman.
Well, that's why you guys work so good together.
Yeah, absolutely.
You really do.
That's exactly it. And guys say, well, I can't believe you guys haven't killed each other over 33 years you've been working together. And, I know what he does and he knows what I do. Now, it doesn't mean that I can't argue with him about some of the stuff that he does, and he can't argue with me about some of the stuff that I do. I have no problem with that. It's not arguing. It's making that guy better. Yep. Seeing maybe a weakness. And
I think it's funny that you say that because I've taken notice with team tournament fishing.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know. You might say I'm wrong, but it usually works out when the two kind of are opposites in ways.
Yeah.
Instead of both being very strong-minded
and
wanting to do it their way.
Yeah.
That don't usually work well.
No, it doesn't.
That really doesn't work.
It doesn't. So we click well together. I'm not lying. I'm not gonna lie. There's been times after hours, that it got pretty freaking ugly. There's been times. Only a few people have ever seen it. Very, very few. Very close knit people would ever see that. Very few. And it only happened a few times ever where it was ugly. It was freaking ugly. But probably had something to do with some Miller Lights involved or something.
Well, that's right.
But where we finally just broke. But it's all good. It's all good. Then the next day you walk in, man, sorry about that. Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, we got to learn off of that, and
that's the way it goes.
Let's just work on the issue, and we'll see if it works out. And
that's how you grow.
Yeah, absolutely. Healthy challenges, Sean, absolutely. But it's all good. But yeah, I would love to do that with George, and he would love it too, and it would be cool to see. But we'd almost have to do it twice.
What do you mean?
Because if we did it first, like on the river, and say, for instance, that I would win. I'm just saying. I'm not saying I would. Just say, for instance, I would win, and then we went to one of these lakes around here, and did it.
So you're saying we would have to do 3 because it had to be best out of 3.
Yeah, then we might have to do 3.
Yeah, because you can't. If you win 1, he wins 1. You can't let it.
You can't say it's a tie.
No, that's not. It's got to be best out of 3. So we're working out the kinks here. That's not bad.
That'd be fun. All right, let's get back to some tackle talk here, for God's sakes. We love this.
That's right.
All right, so all right, here it is. Everybody's been wondering about this thing. This is the Z-Man Spike. It's let me get the name right. The Chatter Spike. Okay. You can see it's really fine at the end, and you can't keep it from moving. So the end of that thing just kind of twitches and goes all over. It's got the belly cutouts on it to keep the thing and add more movement to it. So this is the craze. This is the craze that's going on right now. It started with the Hog Farmer trailer. I don't even know if Hog Farm, but this thing, look at the cutouts in that, Nick. You might have to come in here again. Look at the cutouts in this thing. It's very unique. It's got crazy cutouts on it. Look at that. See the cutouts? It's on both sides. There's the other side. Okay, so it's always designed to give that tail a lot more movement. But this started from the Hog Farmer trailer, and I think Hog Farmer, the guys were fishing it on a jig head in some forward-facing sonar tournaments, and I think that's where it got its rise in popularity, right? And then they started putting it on the back of a chatterbait. And I may have that wrong. I think maybe it was a chatterbait trailer and it had some great success getting away from the paddle tail to a tail like this. Maybe that's the way it went. And then it went to a drop bait for jig finesse fishing and forward facing. Maybe that's the way it was. George would know the answer to that much better than I would. But this is a bait that it's a copy, and they'll be the first to tell you it's a copy. But it's in the Z-Man plastic. And what we like with the Z-Man plastic for you guys to know is it's a durable piece of plastic. Does it do anything better than some of like the Hog Farmer bait? I don't think it's going to do anything better, but these cutouts are interesting. So maybe this one's going to wiggle a little bit differently. I haven't tried it. It's brand new. It's got the cutouts there. And then Nick, I missed it. There's another set of cutouts back here. So there's two segments, but they're kind of held together a little bit. So I don't know what it's going to do.
That's where it gets all its action.
Maybe what do you think? They get more tail action. It's almost like I feel like clicking too. Click, 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 click. It's weird.
It's a lot of action.
There's a lot of action.
It's different, and we're finding out difference good.
Different is making a difference.
That's right.
So, would you just use it as a trailer, or would you be the guy who put that on a jig head?
I would do both.
You would do both with it.
I would do both. No doubt about it.
So this they call it the chatter spike. So their intentions is to put it on a jackhammer, and put it on as a trailer, and which is what I would use it for too. But don't forget they got it in. There's some of the colors, Nick. That's black and blue. They got it in. They got it in the hot snakes. They got it in a really cool bluegill color that really does have a lot of blue in it. Of course, chartreuse, red, white. They have all the colors, so they're really colored to match the chatterbait colors that are out there. So one size, yep, absolutely one size right now. I'm sure it'll come out in a 3.5. What's the length on it, Nick?
They are 4.5.
Yeah, they're 4.5 inches. So it's a perfect size for a chatterbait. And the durability, number one for me, and I think with this, with anything, anybody that ever invents something and then people copy it, some of the copies are better than the original.
Yeah.
Because they thought of something that would do something different. So maybe these cutouts might make it better than a Hog Farmer's trailer, or the one that Missile did with Hog Farmer in the Missile bait, which everybody loves that one.
Well, the other thing, like you said, you're going to catch so many fish with one bait.
I'm not kidding you, man. I've been out there on a smallmouth bite on a rising river. Nick, you never experienced this.
No, I haven't.
Where literally you catch 120 fish. And we were doing it on a chatterbait one day, George and I, and George forgot all the jig trailers, the chatterbait trailers. So fortunately, there was one chatterbait had a turbo crawl on it. This was a turbo crawl that we were using. The other one, we couldn't find another black and blue one, and it's all the difference in the world. The black on blue and black and blue trailer had to be that. George likes to do a black and blue with a green pumpkin trailer for contrast,
right?
And he does have success with that. But this time it was, I'm telling you, it was game on with that thing. And he looked down on the floor of my boat. Imagine that.
Yeah, we know that.
Imagine I had a few things on the floor of my boat, and he finds one that had one claw on it, and he put it on his jig. And honest to God, he starts, bam, bam, bam. We were catching them. We caught 120 smallies that day, and I used one bait, and he used that one bait with the one claw on it. Now mine got down to where I only had one claw on it.
Really?
Yeah, it did. At the end of the day, I only had one claw on it. But we didn't have any other trailers. But that just shows how long they'll actually last.
It's crazy, but it's crazy good.
Crazy good.
It's crazy good for us that are purchasing. But I was checking out this color here, Mike. I just can't help myself. It's called bluegill. But look at that color.
Isn't that crazy?
I got it. Here, you want to hold that one?
Yeah,
I'll bring that camera.
Yeah, this thing's. That's what I said. They match these colors, Nick, to the baits. You see how they match that to their bluegill chatterbait? Look at this. Look at this thing. It's crazy. It is absolutely crazy. Can you imagine that on a bluegill chatterbait? Seriously. And the back even has that bluish glimmer hue to it. Camera doesn't do any justice. This thing's really something. One size, Robert Brett's. Yep, absolutely. Yeah, Lake Fork. There's a bunch of great. There's a bunch of great trailers out there, guys. And girls. The Lake Fork was one of the originators of that ultimate movement. No paddle tail, not a paddle tail, but a ultimate loop mover fish tail. We call them fish tails, and segmented. It was great. That thing's still we sell. We have them back here. They're still very relevant. There's another somebody here said something about another product, but yeah, I mean, there's a million of them out there. This is just the latest fad. Is the spike tail, the pointy tail trailer for a different look in the water. Mine's favorite is still the Zako.
That's a good one, but it's interesting you're talking about a different look. I think it's really coming down to, again, we're talking about the small baits.
Yeah.
We're talking about finesse. It doesn't have as much action as far as
the thump. Right.
But the fish might get so used to hearing that thump or feeling that thump. This might just say, hey, you know what? Well, it'll trigger a bite, and that's what you're looking for.
I agree with that, Nick. I agree with that statement.
Yeah.
150%. Fish are so pressured.
They really are.
The last 3 years, the pressure on at least and everybody has their local lakes. Wherever you're listening from, you have your local lakes. The pressure that you're seeing on those lakes is staggering.
Exactly.
And the techniques that we used to do to catch fish are changing.
They are.
The ones that we used to use are we don't use them as much anymore. And we're doing something different. We're changing up. More of this, more finesse, more of that, whatever. You got to do something different.
And that's why we like to do, tackle talk and all that stuff, because if we didn't talk about it, you wouldn't know it. You wouldn't know it's there. Very cool.
Yeah. Brian Brooks, new owners, big things coming from Lake Fork. I'm sure. I'm sure they're going to do crazy things with that company. That's a great company. Lake Fork. Great company, great innovations from those people who had it. George would know the names of them. He dealt with them all the time. So I wouldn't doubt that the new owners are going to come in there and just, rock the world with their stuff, because it's a great name. It's a great name of company name. Alan, you're 100%. That's what we're saying. You're 100% correct. You got to show something different. Somebody asked about if I ever throw Nico baits. You know that company, Nico, Nick?
I've heard of them. I have not thrown their baits.
So, Japanese company, make a lot of different baits. And for us, the one that's crazy good is the Hellgrammite.
Right. Yeah, it's a big one around here.
Well, it was big. It's now getting giant.
Yeah.
It's catching these fish like gangbusters. And again, is it because it's different? Is it a different look? Is it something different than anybody's been throwing? Guys that I never would thought would throw a Hellgrammite looking bait are coming in buying 10, 12 packs at a time, and they're slaying them on that.
Well,
thing.
That's the other thing. I think it's a great point. When you do find something different, whatever it is, Hellgrammite, you want to take advantage of that bite as long as you can, because it ain't going to last forever.
Does it?
And think about it. A fish sees a bait over and over again, and they get stuck with it over and over again. They're like, hell, that hurts.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, they get kind of cautious with that.
When was the last time you threw a 6-inch U-tail or curly tail worm?
I got to tell you, it's been a while. It's been a while. And I know exactly where I was, too, the last time I threw it. It was Lake Hopatcong. Somebody would probably tell me I said that wrong.
Hopatcong, that
but
sounds
that's
right.
where it was. And yeah, I know exactly where I was with that one. But yeah, that was a while ago.
Been a long time, but I try to mix it in on my rotation when I'm not catching anything. I always find myself going in and pulling out a 6-inch worm or a 7-inch power bait curly tail worm.
And that's a great bait right now.
They're phenomenal worms.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's because I just don't have confidence in it like I used to as a kid, where we had a tackle box and 2 trays were curly tail, 6-inch and 7-inch curly tail worms.
Right.
Some of them had ribbon tails, some of them had a little hook tail on them. Some of them, were a U-tail from Zoom, but we had boxes of them. And then we had boxes of 4-inch ringworms.
Oh, that was a big deal.
Boxes of them.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
And, that's back when the slider was big, Now, honestly, in the shop here, there's only a few rows of 6-inch and 7-inch worms. Mm-hmm. It's not like I don't consider the 10 and 12-inch worm thing in the same category as the 6 and 7.
I agree.
But we always had a 6-inch or 7-inch curl tail worm on our rods in the boat at all times when we went largemouth fishing.
Right.
And it's just not happening. So is it because we don't have confidence that we're not catching fish in it and therefore we're not throwing it enough? Or is it that they just seen it so many millions of times that they moved on to something else, like a creature bait that had more movement or did this? Or
it is interesting. You see a lot more of like the pros, the same areas they would fish that big worm you're talking about. They're fishing the bigger shaky head worms now.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's because it does less.
Yeah.
But you just don't know. I mean,
it's different.
It's interesting. Yeah. But right now is the time of year where you should be having one of those worms on you're talking about.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
Yep.
Okay, we got one. I think we have one more. No, that was it.
That was it.
Oh, no, I have one more right here. Okay, for you Megabass nutcases, and I'm one of them. I say that with love. The new Respect series is out. So it's only this time it's only in 3 baits. It's the popper, it's the walking the dog, and it's the 110. It's called Frozen Heisu. Frozen Heisu. I gotta turn it so you can see the frozen on it. It's a matte finish, Heisu, kind of bluegillish, and I'm gonna keep turning it so you can see the colors because it really has a lot of colors built into it. Vision 110, Giant Dog X, and the Pop X available. Just got them in like 2 hours before the show. We opened the box up. There it was, and we had to let everybody know. So there it is, the Respect series, new color. It's called Frozen Heisu, and I'm telling you, man, if you look at this thing really close, and when you get it and you look at it real close, it's got that beautiful matte finish to it. And it just has, the Heisu, beautiful Heisu but yet they build in some purple and some orange in it. It's almost like a bluegill Heisu. I don't know. It's kind of weird. It's beautiful. Look at that thing. Look at this thing in the Giant Dog X. Look at that. I mean, it's just, you can see it right there. That's that matte finish right there. Look at that. It's beautiful. I mean, I got mine. They came in. I grabbed mine right away. So get them while they're hot. They're not going to last. It was a very small shipment, a very limited supply to all the big dealers. We've got a very limited supply. I'm sure some got more than others, but we got limited supply. They're here, ready to roll. You got to call the shop for that one, though. It's not on the website. You got to call the shop to get it or stop in and get it. Do I have any pulse worms tucked away in the back? Well, Matthew, I don't have them tucked away in the back, but I got several boxes at my house that have the old school stuff there. And my wife always puts it out in the garage sale pile. Every time there's a garage sale threatening to happen, and I have to grab it and run it down in the basement and hide it on a shelf somewhere. So yes, I have pulse worms. I have black grape zoom curly tail worms. yeah. I don't have 1 pack of them. I don't have 2 packs of them. I probably have 15 packs of them things. That's the one you should be asking me about, is the black grape zoom curly tail worm. Mm-hmm. There you go. What do you have, Nick? Anything special in that? Hidden away in a box? Old school that you just can't part with?
Well, there are some Smithwick jerkbaits that I have that I rigged them to where they sink or float exactly how I wanted them, and they're worth gold to me.
Yeah. All right, we were going to go into our thing and say about what we, old school stuff that we were fishing, and that we nobody talks about anymore. I think Nick has one.
Yeah.
The jig,
What jig did I like?
Yeah, that you like.
That you don't hear much about jig fishing right now, but it still works,
Yeah.
And everybody knows me. I like the Kitech casting jig.
Love that thing.
Oh man.
Don't say you like it, you love it.
I have a problem. I love it. I'm obsessed with it. It works. And it's hard to beat that. That tungsten, you feel everything. It just is the deal for me. I have a lot of confidence in this bait.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep.
What do you got, Mike?
I had one here somewhere. I don't know.
Right here.
Oh, yeah. Well, old school. It's not old school. It's relevant to this time of year, but it's something that, we don't always talk about, or we don't always show you. But this one, I think we probably have beat it to death. And again, it's the Dyna Ivino Splash It in many, many colors. The Splash It being a bait that copied the Rico, but then they did it a little bit different. They made a different kind of size to it, a little different shape to it, I guess. I don't know, but it's always been our number one topwater popper that's in our box. And this is the time of year to throw these kind of things. So I thought I'd bring that up as my old school kind of been around. We've been selling this thing for 20 plus years.
And it works.
And it just constantly works. Always catches fish. There was a guy in the day, bought 3 of them. He broke one off. He said he knows it was 10 years old. And
Really?
He broke it off on a fish, and he said, that was my favorite one. He came and bought 3 more of the same color.
This year up at Lake Champlain, they had the Bass Elites tournament. And what was it? Cliff? One of the anglers. They call him the Golden Ram.
Oh, Cliff Prince.
No. Somebody on here will say it. But anyway, he was
Golden
saying
Ram? Cliff Prince.
the Golden Ram. He was saying that if you went over to the weed lines and you threw the Splash It, he gave it a call out.
Oh.
He said you pop, woom. There it went.
Son, don't get me going on that.
He was all about it.
Yeah.
I watched it on live.
Oh, God, I love that thing, man. I can't tell you how many big fish I caught on a Splash It. I mean, legit 5-pounders on that thing.
Clifford Perch.
Clifford Perch. What'd you say?
You said Cliff Prince.
Well,
we were close.
We were close.
Dave Stoudemire. He hooked us up here.
Way to go. Way to go, Dave. We need all the help we can get.
All hands on deck.
What's up, Charlie Enoch? I know you've been throwing them things.
I got another bait here too that I think is pretty cool because it's versatile.
Mm-hmm.
It it gets a lot of love, but it needs more.
Yeah.
And that is the Ultra Vibe Speed Crawl. And you know why? Because not only can you flip and pitch this bait very well.
Yeah.
It's also a great Carolina rig bait.
No. Love that for Carolina rig.
Absolutely.
Well, our boy GDP, it's like his smallmouth killer for Carolina rigging up north.
It's dynamite.
He does it big time.
Absolutely.
My favorite Carolina rigging bait is? I mean,
Is
it's not right now, but it was for the longest time.
Is it same company?
Yeah. Yeah, same exact company.
The Hog.
Nope. That for the longest time, my favorite Carolina rigging bait was a Zoom Centipede.
Really?
Gosh, I caught so many fish on that thing. So many fish on that thing. Carolina rigging it. Largemouth bass, smallmouth bass, lakes, rivers, tidal water, didn't matter.
That's interesting.
Everywhere. Yeah.
All right. So what weight were you using most of the time?
So for me, it was always, see, I'm different. I was always half ounce.
Oh, you're half ounce.
For most of my stuff. My brother was always 3/4 of an ounce.
Okay.
Okay. But most of my stuff, I always did half ounce. And I don't know why. I just always was.
Just your deal.
I like the feel of it. I guess. I don't know. What's yours?
Well, for instance, when I was just at the St. Lawrence, I was actually using a ounce for there.
Yeah.
But when I fish local, I'm more of a 3/4.
Yeah. I think I remember we answering that question.
Yeah, I like 3/4. I mean, sometimes I guess it would all depend too how deep I'm fishing, but 3/4 seems to be the deal for me.
Yeah.
And that's what you said too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Now with that centipede, you said you were
No, I'm not 3/4. I'm half.
You're half ounce.
George
is a 3/4.
Yeah, I'm half ounce.
Now, what was your leader length with that?
Depending on the time of year.
Ah.
Early part of the year, no longer than 2 feet.
Early part of the year.
Early part of the year. That's now this is back. You know, you gotta understand. I have a Carolina rig tied on my rod at all times, and at certain parts of the times of the year, like right now, I'll have 2 of them tied on.
Okay.
All right, and I do. And in our boat that George and I fish out, we have 3 to 4 rods with Carolina rigs on them at all times because I have to have 2 because I like to have my baits rigged up and ready to go, and I have one with a short leader and I have one with a long leader.
Okay.
But in the springtime, early 18 inches to 24 inches, short grass, not a lot of grass, not a lot of cover, tight to the bottom, but they still wanted it real subtle, you know, that little subtleness coming. So you're doing kind of what it was doing. And 18 wasn't like the norm. It was normally more 24. Summertime, I would go out as far as 36.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. And are you going fluoro leader or
absolutely fluoro leader? Okay. Now,
if you're going mono.
No, I was now when back in the day, that's all we had was mono. And back in the day, I used a True Turn 3.0 and 4.0 hook. True Turn. I had to have my True Turn. My brother couldn't figure it out. It took me like forever to get a good sharp point on them because they were the crappiest hooks. But I didn't lose fish on that thing.
That was your deal.
That True Turn, man, put that point right in there every time. It was just amazing. But back in the day, all we had was monofilament, so that's what we used. But the fluorocarbon, absolutely fluorocarbon for the abrasion resistance. And and then we've learned a lot, from the hook, being polished, right, that it didn't float up like everybody thought a Carolina rig would float up a lot.
Yeah, exactly.
It spent a lot of time on the bottom because your hook would be polished like crazy. So, what we finally came to the conclusion was it was just a nice little scooter.
Yep.
It just scooted along real nice and real subtle.
Yep.
What's your leader length?
I'm going to say I'm more of a 24-inch to 26-inch, right in that area.
Yeah.
Generally.
Yeah.
And it seems to work, but I like your idea of having 2 rods for 2 different leader lengths.
Yeah.
Because it does make a big difference sometimes.
Telling you. Sometimes they're tight to the bottom and they don't want to, Carolina, the idea behind a Carolina rig was the heavy weight dragging on the bottom would create the disturbance and attract fish to the disturbance. Bass are a very curious creature. So when something's clicking and we always, did you do glass or plastic beads?
I like glass.
That's what I always did, glass. Yep. Now, since tungsten came out, it was breaking the glass beads. So then, we didn't, I always stayed lead.
Okay.
I just stayed lead because I could put the lead to the glass to the swivel. And I didn't have the problem with breaking the glass beads. That's where the clacker came in, the little brass disc.
Yep.
Brass and glass.
Okay.
Brass and glass was big. I did a lot of that. I did a lot of brass Carolina rigs. George and I used to make up Carolina rigs and sell them.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, we made little short on steel leaders like this, and we put brass and glass in there and had different combinations of it, and we would sell them, 4 inch and 6 inch, or maybe all the same length. I don't know, they were 6 inches long or whatever, and brass and glass, 1/2 ounce and 3/4.
See, that's interesting. I do things a little bit different too.
Mm-hmm.
I do a bobber stop.
Mm-hmm.
I do glass,
Mm-hmm.
tungsten,
Mm-hmm.
glass,
Wow.
and then my what do you call it?
Swivel. So
I-
you put a bobber stop on first?
I put a bobber stop on
Is
first.
that for the cast to keep it from rolling
That's
up your
to
line?
keep everything down there.
Okay.
Okay. And
a
then
little bit of space for
a
movement.
little bit of space. And then I do a glass bead,
Ah,
tungsten weight, glass bead, and in my mind, it allows it to have more
it's clicking all over the place.
clicking all over the place.
Yeah, I like it.
And it works.
I like it. But that's the idea behind it. It creates the disturbance on the bottom. The fish get curious because they see all this stuff and clicking and carrying on going on, and they would come over to that, and then behind it, tootling along, would be this little bait that's interested in what's going on too. He's just tootling along and behind there, and then wham, out of nowhere they come up and grab it.
They gotta have it.
They gotta eat it. And I love that bite, man. It's like, that
It is an awesome bite.
it's just a great bite when you get that pumping, that it's in, you just reel down and you do the sidearms hook set, and it's just awesome.
That's a fun way to fish.
I love Carolina rigging.
It's a fun way to fish.
I love Carolina rigging.
Barry, I'm doing 20-pound fluorocarbon to a 17-pound leader. What are you doing, Mike?
Well, now I'm fluorocarbon. Now I'm fluorocarbon to a leader, 20-pound, usually 20-pound fluorocarbon. But I think I'm going to go back to 30-pound braid.
Really?
Yeah, I think I'm going to go back to 30-pound braid or 40-pound braid. Maybe step up a little bit to 40-pound braid. I just there's no need not to have fluoro down there.
Right.
There's no need not to have it down there because you're just, the fish they're not looking at anything more than that.
I guess my question is, what have you
Hook
seen
set.
different between?
Hook set.
Is that what it is?
Yeah,
For your braid versus fluoro?
yeah.
Okay.
Hook sets are, when you're dealing with a leader and maybe the leader's like twisted through some grass or something, or you're made of, because you can throw them things a mile.
Oh yeah.
And I like to cover a lot of water. You don't have to start the hook set at the front of the boat and end it at the back of the boat.
Yeah.
Because you feel like you don't get the stretch out of your line.
Right.
And I know fluorocarbon doesn't stretch that much, and I know 20 doesn't, and I don't have a problem with it. But in my mind, I just feel like I have over the last couple of years lost a couple of key fish on hook sets and pulled off right away. Like I didn't get the hook penetrating on it. That's just what I'm thinking.
I think that's I thought you were going to say because of sensitivity, but that was interesting. You said about hook set. That's
really all I'm going to do it for. It was the hook set. The hook set was, it's just much, much more direct and much more powerful.
Right. No, that's cool.
And my leader's fluorocarbon, and it's 15 pound.
15 pound.
Mm-hmm.
See, that's what's cool about fishing. We all do things a little bit different.
Yeah. Yep.
And we can learn from each other.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Back in the day when they were doing a lot of it, I remember when Carolina rigging was really big, and one of the guys on the tour, I can't tell you who it was. I want to say, not Charlie Reed, but like Guido Hibnen or one of them guys. Their favorite bait to Carolina rig was a Zoom Super Fluke.
I could see that.
Watermelon red. Down south, it's, everything's, you got that watermelon red on there.
That's right.
That's just the way they are down. They love the watermelon red. And I remember him throwing a 7-foot leader in a tournament.
How the heck do you even cast that?
I don't know. He was doing it. He was throwing a 7-foot leader on a Carolina rig. And he did really well. I don't think he won the tournament, but he did really well. But the big story of that was his leader length. And we read the article on it. Of course, that was Bassmaster Magazine back in those days. And we read the article on it, and it was a 7-foot leader. I can't think of the guy's name who did it, but his favorite, if you'd ever look it up, his favorite Carolina rigging bait was the Zoom Super Fluke.
I can see that.
Yeah.
That's a great bait for any time of the year.
Jeff Reed said Carolina rigging lizard. Well, we cut our teeth. That's where we originally cut our teeth on, was the Carolina rigging the lizard on the Potomac River in pumpkin seed, Carolina pumpkin chartreuse tail. How it started. Then green pumpkin came out right after that, and green pumpkin kind of with a chartreuse tail overtook it. But yeah, you're right, bro. I mean, Carolina rigging the lizard, and you know what? That still works. I know that still works. I just don't throw it. I throw the Strike King. What's the name of their creature bait? It's called Strike King. Whatever. It's their creature bait.
That's a great creature bait.
With the coffee scent.
Yep, that's a great bait.
That's what I have confidence in that thing right now like crazy. That's kind of why I got away from the centipede, because I started having great success with that bait, and it's I don't know. That's my thing. Do nothing worm, yeah. That's a lot like the centipede. The centipede really did a whole lot of nothing. So, all right. So we've dragging this along, Nick, like some kind of crazy people. That's the brush hog, yeah, or the game hog. Game hog, yeah. Thanks, Nick.
Yep, you got it.
Like monoliter, yeah. Monoliter floats a little bit better, absolutely. It has a certain amount of stretch built into it. I totally understand monoliters. Kind of even thought about that over last couple of years when I started throwing Carolina rig again a lot. Leader material. So that's kind of crazy.
You had a good point though there, because I was messing around with the mono leader, but like you said, you don't get the durability that you do with the fluorocarbon.
Yeah.
As far as hitting the bottom, breaking the line, maybe getting nicks in your line. Mm-hmm. Yep, that's a good point.
I like it. I like monofilament leaders. I like the float factor of it. It doesn't drag on the bottom near as much. So I get it. I understand all that. And I'm kind of rejuvenating my Carolina rig game these last couple of years. So we'll see. We'll see what all ends up. Man, this show's getting crazy good here. It's crazy long. We're probably not going to get into all this stuff, but I think it's important that we do talk a little bit about September, because that's what this show's about. And it's been said that September is probably the worst month of the year to fish, I think, by a lot of different people.
Oh yeah, I remember I don't know if you ran into this, but fishing a local club, they wouldn't even schedule tournaments in September because they said, oh, it's not worth going out there. All you do is
absolutely
sweat your ass off. You know what I mean? So they wouldn't even do it. But yeah, how about you? Same?
Yeah, September, what we have to understand about September is still very much summer. It's still very much summer patterns. It's very hot. It's normally very dry. It's still very dry. You're at the end of your summer season where it's just so dry. The water's really clear. The temperatures are very high in the water. The fish are, scattered, very much scattered. So it's just a tough month. It's a tough month to really get on a really good pattern because the fish are moving so much. That's why the topwater bite's so great in this September, but then it's so bad because where you caught them yesterday on a topwater bite, there's no fish around because they're just following baits, schools of bait, or there was just super hot or whatever the reason. They just don't bite, and or they move, But the fish do have to eat. It's hot water. The metabolisms are very, very fast and high, so they got to eat, and they do eat. And the problem that we all have, I think, in fishing in September is we fish too slow.
I agree.
We don't cover enough water.
Yeah, because you got to locate them. That's half the battle, don't you think?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And you got to locate them. They have to eat, so you got to use that in your favor.
Yeah.
So if you get around them, you can get them.
Well, that's it. Because you ran into him by accident or however, and you caught the hell out of him on his popper, on breaking fish that were breaking all around you, on a Friday, and you went back on a Sunday and there's nothing. There's no bait. There's no fish. There's no nothing. So now you need to get on your trolling motor and you need to start cruising around and looking for or moving over to the next point or going a little deeper or going over to the left or going over to the right, hundreds of yards and moving around a lot. And if that doesn't work, fire the boat up and run to the other side of the lake and fish some stuff over there looking for bait fish and move around and run, up even further to the lake and then come back across and then come back.
And, a good point for what you're saying, looking for bait fish. If you have windy days, use that to your advantage. You know what wind's going to do. It's going to help move your bait fish.
You're going to put them where they should be.
So we always talk about using your senses and everything. Use that to your advantage.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That to me is the problem with September is that the fish move so much. But George had some things that he wrote down here, and one of his things was also covering a lot of shallow water or covering a lot of water, shallow and deeper. Flats and points. Don't forget your flats. The flats are, flats are, it's not all bait fish love points. There's a lot of bait fish that love flats.
I'm so glad you brought that up because we were talking before the show and I was just at the St. Lawrence River.
Yeah.
And, everybody thinks deep, deep, deep.
Yeah.
You have to be deep.
Yeah.
So I go up on this flat and I'm throwing a little swim bait. Boom, there's a 4.5. But I go over to the right, and I'm telling you, there are 4 or 5 bass. If there's 5 bass, it's at least 22 pounds worth of bass. They're in 3 feet or less of water.
Yeah.
When would you think of that?
That's the thing. Cover water. Fish the points and the flats, but then also fish shallow and fish deep. That's my thing was always. Don't forget your shallow bite. You run some timbers, run some cover, run some rock banks, shallow, just like you're saying, Nick.
Yep.
Because I forget who it was that told us there's always fish biting shallow and as well as deep.
Yeah.
And there's always 2 to 3 patterns on any given lake at any one time.
And that's good to know.
And the pros back in the day, before all the sonar stuff, just throwing that in there, that how to use their fishing skills. They always tried to have 2 patterns figured out on any body of water at any one time. So that was a shallow bite and normally a deep bite. So when you're moving, don't just move from point to point to point and fish 20 foot to 30 foot of water. There's reservoirs down in Baltimore. You know about all that reservoir stuff down there?
I'm not familiar.
There's 3 big lakes down in Baltimore that are drinking water reservoirs for Baltimore.
Okay.
And you're allowed to fish them, but you have to have a boat that has to only be fished on that body of water. You can't take it anywhere else. And it got stupid regulations, and it's electric motor only.
Okay.
So there's a really cool tournament circuit down there. There's 3 of them actually, but there's a couple tournament circuits down there, and these guys are hardcore bass junkies. I mean, they're like all of us guys. And they're just hardcore junkies. They got these ultimate rigs. But one of my friends is fishing it, and he answers his own questions and he doesn't even know it. He calls me up so frustrated. He just wants to quit fishing and sell all his stuff, and get out of the game, and feels like he has to buy forward-facing sonar to be competitive.
Right.
You know what I mean? And he's telling me this scenario that's going on. I was there, and I was fishing, and I was out, and my boat was in 26 feet of water. I was thrown in towards the grass line, and I was catching them on that sporadic grass. We went back, couldn't catch fish. They're all little small runts, 12 inchers. He said, so we took the boat and we ran up and set the boat on the grass line and threw out and brought them in. And man, we were getting bit right next to the boat. And that's where we got all of our bites. And I said, well, then what'd you do? He said, well, we hung around there and then we went back out and threw in. And I said, well, how come you didn't get on the grass line and cover a lot of cover on the grass line?
Yeah, run that pattern.
And run the pattern.
Yeah.
If the better fish were on the shallow edge, well, the guys who want it out, down out on this point, and we can't get there fast enough because their boats are faster than ours, and it's a really good spot. And I said, Bill, buddy, I hope he's listening. You don't have to. There's not 2 spots on the lake that you can win a tournament.
No.
But you got to cover water.
You got to cover water,
and you got to change up and do everything different every day.
And the funny thing is, you were talking about running point to point to point, and sometimes people do that, and it doesn't work out. And they're telling themselves every time they hit one, they got to be here. They got to be here. The answer is no, they don't.
No,
they don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
So you have to be willing to adjust your thinking for that day. And like you said, that guy had the answer, but he didn't want to see that answer.
It was right there in front of him.
He didn't want to see that.
And I think these guys are so wrapped up in this stuff that it's affecting the way they're thinking.
It is.
It's affecting the way they're thinking. But it's September. The fish were deep one day. They're shallow the next in that area. Okay, now it's a pattern. That's part of the pattern. Let's run that for a little bit. Right. You run that shallow pattern for a while. Maybe it pays off and you start catching them. Or maybe that was just on that spot. Okay, well, let's go find some other spots like that are like that. So you run over there and you fish just on top of that point in that shallow water, and maybe that's where they are, Nick. Could be. You don't know until you run it. You get over there, and what happens if you catch 2.5 pounder?
Yeah,
maybe it's not a winning fish, but they're okay. Now we got something. We got 2 nicer fish.
You got to start.
That's our start, and then you can maybe change up on baits for bigger fish. Go a little deeper in the grass. Start flipping the grass. And move out on that point, see if the bigger fish are out off that point, and try that. And then and if nothing there, you go back that shallow, you run some more stuff, and then maybe you can run into a 5 pounder.
Absolutely.
Now all of a sudden you got 9.5 pounds.
See, I always welcomed the hot summer days of fishing because, it's interesting for us up here at the North Country. We only have so many months out of the year that you can really, I don't want to say you can fish, but most people do fish, right? And in the beginning of the season, you see a lot of pictures up on social media. People are posting all these fish catches. It's great. Pre-spawn, spawn, and then post-spawn. And all of a sudden,
no pictures
every year. And it's because, in my mind, it becomes a huge mental game. And everything you just said describes it.
Yeah.
And it's not easy.
Yeah. So let's think about this a minute. It's September. The fish have been beat to death for 4 months.
Right.
And now you're at the end of the season. And the fish are beat to death. They're really kind of crazy. So one of our things that we really think about, Nick, in September fishing is when we do get to some structure and we want to check our shallow structure pattern, whether it's rock or timber or something, is to pick it apart.
Right.
Pick it apart with a lot more cast than you normally would and slow it way, way down and really soak that tree with that bait or soak that rock pile with that bait and pick it apart. Then picking it apart means a flip, not a flip on one side of the tree, a flip in the middle of the tree, and a flip on the right side of the tree. It's 4 casts on one side of the tree, two casts in the front of the tree, and 4 casts on the other side of the tree. That's picking apart a tree.
Right.
And that's what you want to do. You want to pick apart you want to pick apart that cover, because these fish aren't going to move. If they're pressured like crazy, like they mostly are on all this body's water that we're fishing, they are not going to move, and they have to almost be pissed off to eat it.
Yeah.
And it might take a bunch of casts in that tree to come across his head 2 or 3 times, but then he might bite it.
Yeah, they're going to be tight.
They're tight, super tight. You need to get back in it. You need to be very patient with that type of fishing. So, but that's another point that we want to make here tonight with September fishing is not only move around a lot, cover a lot of water, flats, points, that kind of thing, in, out, all that. But we also want to get on the cover and pick it apart. If it's a brush pile, you want to pick it apart. You want to be able to throw multiple casts in there, fish it slower than you ever would fish it slower before, and see if that triggers the bites. So, but pick your structure apart really, really well, and that'll help you with your September fishing.
That's a good point.
Yep.
Now, for you, Mike, is there higher percentage areas, like if you're fishing and you're flipping a laydown? Is there higher percentage areas, high percentage baits that you like to throw?
Well, I mean, the jig is your like number one bait, but everybody flips their own baits. I like to throw a sweet beaver,
Yeah, that's a good
one. And then I like to flip a Senko. I mean,
yeah, that's a good one too.
So you should throw all that stuff in that tree,
right?
To really do it right.
Yep.
Or if you're fishing with a buddy, like if I was fishing with you and you're a jig guy, like I know you are, that's your confidence bait. I'd let you do that, and then I could flip a game hog, or a Senko behind you, and we're covering that,
really dissecting it.
Yeah, you might get a bite on the jig, but then those fish might not want to eat that big profile. They might want that Senko or whatever. So George likes to throw a shaky head.
That's a good one too.
He likes a shaky head, and he likes to pick it apart with a shaky head. He likes to jig, and I think he said he also likes a drop shot.
Yeah, that's always a good one.
Drop shots are tough to fish in, and it's not typical something to fish in a tree. And Greg DePalma showed us that he'll throw a drop shot where nobody else throws a drop shot. And his point is that, I'll get the bite. I may not get the fish out of there, but I'm getting the bite.
Yeah, he's getting the bite.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep,
and sometimes you get the fish out, sometimes you don't. But don't forget, he drop shots with 15-pound test.
Well, yeah, and the theory behind it is, if you don't get the bite, you're not getting the fish.
You're not getting
the bite. You got to get the bite first.
You got to get the bite, and then you can fight the fish back. And that always stuck with me.
That's it.
To throw something weird like that in a tree.
It's a good point, though.
It is a good point. It proves that, when the bite is tough in September, some stuff that's kind of oddball produces a bite. Yep. And in September, a bite is something big.
Yeah.
It's a great time of year to fish. It's awesome. Let's go. Hey, I'm knocking off the month of September. I'm going fishing.
That's right. You got to do
brutal.
it.
I mean, I would never do that. Now, there's places like rivers, St. Lawrence, for instance, with current, Susquehanna River with current. All right, that the fish are. Where the fish are. It puts them in certain places. They have to eat. It's the metabolism's telling them it's time to eat. We have to eat everything right now. And it's getting to be, their sensitive days are getting a little shorter, so they have to eat and they will eat. At the end of September, things start to turn around a little bit. You start seeing the fish really ganging up. And in October, then we get into whole gang up wolf packs, and
it's fun.
And it starts getting really fun, and that starts happening. But the beginning of September, the first half of September, you're still fishing the dog days of summer. Truly. 96 degrees yesterday. 107 felt like.
See, I like what you're saying, though, because now if you're going to fish tournament waters or you can't travel, you're kind of stuck with what you have.
Yeah.
And you do it the best with what you can. But if you are just going to look to have a great time in September and go to some of these areas that are more productive that time of year, that might go have some fun.
All right. I mean, for me, the dog days of summer on the Susquehanna is finding a fish over 18 inches. Okay,
it's tougher to do in September.
It is.
Yeah,
it's that's a tougher bite.
Right.
So can you go to the Susquehanna River and catch 30 fish it right now in September? Absolutely, you can absolutely do it, and it's pretty simple to do that. You can go out any time. As good as our river's fishing right now, any day in September you can go out and catch 25 to 30 fish in a full day of fishing. That's no awesome. Problem at all. And these guys are going out and catching 60 and 70. So are they all 18? No, they're not all 18 inches. Is there a couple mixed in? Yeah, I'm sure out of 25, 30 fish, there's going to be an 18-incher mixed in there. But to find them and target them to where it's a pattern is very difficult in September.
Yeah.
We had our buddy out fishing, and he was like, well, man, I had 5 fish over 18 inches last time I was out fishing. Well, when was the last time you were out fishing? Oh, I was here in March.
totally different.
Yeah, no kidding, bro. You should have caught, you only caught 5.
Yeah, they're going to be everywhere then.
Yeah, you should have caught 25 18 inches.
They're feeding.
So, but this time of year for me, it's difficult to find the big fish and to pattern them.
Right.
And that's what I mean by September fishing. It's very frustrating. It can really frustrate you. So, but move around, and that's what I learned to do a lot. I move a lot. I burn a lot of fuel. I don't sit if I'm not getting bit. I'm moving. If I don't see any good kind of activity that makes it look fishy, I'm moving.
Yeah,
I'm out of here. No bait, no fish. I'm going. Some people could do it on a trolling motor because it may only be a 100-yard move.
that's true.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They could have moved 100 yards and you never know it.
And it's that time of year too where it might pay you to not put the trolling motor down until you find bait fish. Yeah, you don't necessarily have to just start fishing.
So good.
Yeah.
So the first part of this program, we talked about side imaging.
Yeah.
And with this guy at 24 miles an hour. Now, you're not going to do it at 24 miles an hour. That would be nice, though.
Yeah.
But, you definitely.
It's hard to do because you want to just start fishing, but then you quickly find yourself not catching, and you're like, then you get frustrated.
Yeah.
So you don't always have to start fishing right away.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
So, that's kind of what we do. When we're fishing in September, that's what we've learned and figured out over the years to make September somewhat easier, somewhat more successful. And I think the biggest thing is every time you go fishing in September, just realize, I'm going fishing and when it's tough, and have that mentality going into it so that you don't get frustrated and you're like, what in the heck's going on? You'll think a lot better, and your thought process you'll be able to run through all the processes a lot easier, and you won't skip things because you're mad. Just come into it saying, okay, September for me is a mental game, and that's what I'm going to play today.
And hydrate well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I wrote an article about hydration.
Did you really?
Yeah. It's published in somewhere on the interwebs.
This is on the We Did Not Know part of the show.
I know. People don't know. Don't know. It's published.
We got an author over here.
I looked into it. I was very, they were having, I forget what tournament it was, and there was people having hydration issues. And, somebody looked into it and said some things like, oh, this is what I do. This is what I do. And then I looked into it, and, hydration doesn't start with drinking on the boat.
Right.
Hydration starts the night before.
Yeah. Usually if you wait till you get on the boat, it's too late.
Yep. Hydration starts the night before, and then you wake up and then you start hydrating right away. And on the way to the tournament, you're hydrating. And then you get on the boat, and then there was some stuff in there about electrolytes and introducing some electrolytes in there, but you got to be careful with which ones because some of them have too much salt in it.
Yeah, which is bad too.
Yeah, so you got to really know what kind of electrolytes you're putting in your body. And then you hydrate on on a regular basis throughout the day. And I think it was who was the guy who won? Brandon
Palaniuk?
Brandon Palaniuk.
Yeah.
He said that, and this was a great point. And this is what really made me research it. He said when you're not hydrated properly, your brain doesn't function. And
that's why I brought it up, because we talked about how much September is a mental game.
Yeah.
And if your brain's not functioning right, you're going to be disoriented.
I thought that was the greatest statement ever. He said, when you're not hydrated, you make bad decisions.
Yep.
He said, and the idea behind fishing is making good decisions. If you want to win tournaments, you must make the proper decisions. And if you're not hydrated, you're not making those proper decisions.
Nope,
and then I researched a lot of what he said about it. I researched about a bunch of guys. Then I actually got into the medical field part and researched a lot of stuff.
I think it's pretty cool.
So if you guys can get it on the interweb, you can just I don't know how you would search it up, but it's out there.
Maybe we can take Mike's research there and make it go What do they call it when you make something go way through the roof?
John Pauls says that George must be a bad influence because we're not drinking anything tonight. Well, that's because when George left today, he took all the beer out of the refrigerator.
That's all we got.
And he put it in his bag to take with him. And I think he might have left me like I think it's like a summer shandy in there, and I won't drink a summer shandy. Won't do it.
Thanks, George.
Yeah, thanks, George. So that's September. You don't have to really go crazy on it, and bait wise, we talked about a lot of different things, but don't forget the rattle trap this time of year. It's a great bait for searching, and it can cover a lot of water with it. It's a great flats, points. It's a shad imitator. Don't forget to throw those a lot. Don't forget your topwater fishing. Your topwater fishing in September is spectacular if you can find the right fish and bump into them when they're feeding. So, and don't forget that you can catch fish in 12 o'clock in the middle of the afternoon on topwater.
Absolutely.
I mean,
some of the best times.
It's not a morning and afternoon thing. Is the bite good in the morning and is the bite good in the evening? Hell yes, on topwater. You're almost guaranteed to catch them on topwater. But some of my most exciting catches has been in 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Well, it's funny you say that, Mike, because when you watch these tournaments, right, and you're watching the live track and all that good stuff, it gets quiet around 10 o'clock to about lunch.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, it's like everybody starts catching fish again.
Isn't that weird?
It's just the way it is.
I've always said that. How in the hell do these fish communicate throughout the whole entire lake at like the same time?
Yeah, because
they just start catching them, and especially ever since the score tracker thing started, mm-hmm. you really saw that, Nick.
Yeah,
the timing of stuff. How when somebody was catching fish, they were all kind of started catching fish.
Right.
It might have been delayed a little bit from down here to up there, or up there to down here, but I don't know, man. It must be like a pass it down the line type of thing.
It's something.
Okay, Jimmy, start eating, and he just pass it down the line.
They got intercom down there.
Yeah.
10 fish trapping tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. See, that's just it's a great search bait. So the other baits that we do throw a lot of is, we say this a lot, matching the hatch. And this is never more critical than this time of year with all the different shad sizes out there. I found it to be that when you figure out the size of shad that the fish are keying in on, then that's a big part of your success of the day. There's all different size right now. Would you agree, Nick?
Oh, yeah. And it really does make a difference.
Yeah. There's those rainy shad that are just like real small little bitty things that just are raining all the time. There's in between sizers that, that are kind of just running around and they're just flying out of the water for no reason. And then there's the not the full grown, but the more meatier size shad that are in packs, tight packs or maybe a little bit less tight, but they tighten up and that's what we call the bait balls. I think that you see a lot of that stuff.
You do.
That's what you kind of want to look for.
And it's interesting because George had said it, and I really, not that I didn't believe him, but I didn't see it for myself.
Mm-hmm.
These fish really start to zero in and get particular about what size they're
absolutely
looking for. And it's boggles my mind.
I fished a championship tournament at the end of September one year on a local lake, Octorara Lake. Mm-hmm. It was a championship club tournament. It was, and if in my eyes, it was the Bassmasters Classic. Okay, can't take it away from me.
Heck no.
It was September, horrible, worst time of the year to go fish that lake. The only bait fish that they were eating were these freaking little things like this, and I don't get it, Nick. I don't get it. It was like really weird. And I ended up winning that tournament, and thank God I had it on an 1/8 ounce rattle trap bait. I lost about 12 fish that day with those little teeny tiny hooks on the back of that thing.
Right.
But I was so frustrated because they were busted all around me. I threw every kind of popper you can possibly imagine. I threw buzz baits. I ripped spinner baits. I did, this was pre-chatterbait years. I did everything you possibly could. I threw every rattle trap, and then there was only one left. It was a black and gold one or black and silver down in the bottom of this tray. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. And I picked that thing out of there, put it on a spinning rod, and instantly caught one. And that gave me 3 fish. Threw out again, caught another one. I got 4 fish. Threw out again, caught another. Well, in between, I lost a bunch of them because they jump out of the water and it would come off. And because these little bitty number, I don't even think they were 8s. I think they were 10s.
We'll have to check with George next week on that.
It's unbelievable. And I won that tournament, championship tournament.
That's awesome.
Yep, got the trophy.
I can tell you right now, I would not have done that because I don't have anything that small.
I was so frustrated. There was a woman in the back of my boat that year. She was great. And I was so frustrated. She said, you just got to calm down.
Could she net your fish, or was that one of the no net deals?
Yeah. But I couldn't even get them to boat. I'd set the hook and they'd start, this was monofilament fiberglass days. Or not fiberglass, monofilament graphite rod days.
Okay.
This is young in my career.
That's pretty cool.
Young in my highly what was it? Pressured career that I was in. Fishing.
That's awesome.
Club tournament. I think it was like 11 boats in that sucker or something like that.
But it was like the Bassmaster.
Well, my point was, when they should be fishing, chowing down on the bigger bait, they weren't. They were eating that small bait, and that's all they would eat.
It's something.
And I'm telling you, when they're on that small bait, they're so impossible to catch.
Yeah.
Since then, I've caught them in that same. Remember George talking about the Castmaster last week?
Yep.
Since then, I've patterned them up on Racetown Lake with a Castmaster.
That's pretty good.
Not all the time, but when they get on that stupid pattern, I have that box. I have the Castmaster box with the little bitty trap inside there, and I got that box for September. But now you can do it with a Castmaster. I figured out.
That makes sense because, again, you're matching that size.
Yeah, so I think the more often than not, they're going to eat the big size, and we've won a lot of tournaments when we found the right bait, the right size bait, and the fish were on it eating it. We've won tournaments that way many times over. But so you're going to have that in September. You're going to have that frustration level that goes through the roof, and you need to know how to deal with it. And over time, you come up with that little panic box. And Mike Iaconelli said it best when he had his little limit box, he called it, I think. Mm-hmm. He had inline Panther Martin inline spinners.
Oh, yeah.
Or were they rooster tails, whatever they were. That would be another thing. I think nowadays I would throw that.
Well, yeah.
Because that white rooster tail, that 1/8 ounce white rooster tail, that thing catches fish when nothing else does.
Absolutely.
And, I might have it in my box. I haven't seen my box for a while.
Well, and you talk about something different. A lot of people wouldn't even think about that.
No, Panther Martin or rooster tail spinner, inline spinner, Castmaster, a little 1/8 ounce rattle trap, which they don't make anymore.
Right.
And tiny. You know what? I wouldn't even be afraid of putting that goby out there now and swimming that through those chat in a more bait fish color and swimming it through them.
Right.
That might even be something because they're weird. They're weird shapes like that.
I agree.
So we're getting long. People are dropping off here. I hope that helps you out with your September fishing. Do you have anything else to add there, Nick?
No, I think you hit every nail on the head that you gotta search. Which searching is actually fun in September because when it's that hot, you get to move around anyway.
Yeah.
You gotta move. You gotta get air moving.
Yeah.
So I'm all about that's I like to run and gun, so that works for me.
Well, I'm a power fisherman. I do power fish a lot also, but I've learned a lot from patience, a lot of patience for September over the years. I learned a lot of patience, and I think that's helped me with my September bite. Once I do run and gun 8 million times, when I'm fishing, I'm picking it apart. You definitely got to pick it apart. And I think that's what I've learned the most of September fishing. And the other thing about September fishing is October's coming. That's next.
Then you get excited.
So you have that to look forward to, and then that's when all your big wolf packs start coming, start getting serious. They're serious about getting big time for the fall. and winter coming up, so they want to really get stocked up with their fat and storage for the winter. And Keith, Carey, thank you. I hope I did good I hope me and Nick did good without George.
We held down the fort.
Good show. Yeah, thank you. Appreciate you, Mike Barr. Appreciate all you guys for stopping in. Don't forget to like and share all this information with your friends and get them to watch our show. We do it because we have fun doing it, but we do it because we've learned a lot of stuff over the years. And George and I were very fortunate to fish with some of the greatest anglers of all time, spend days with them in the boats, spend days with them around dinner tables, and learn little nuggets of information out of all these different guys, and had them here in the shop and had intimate moments with them where we could really pick their brains and understand and then apply that stuff over the years and over our long careers in fishing and tournament fishing. We were able to, exploit that stuff and use it and help us with our fishing. And that's what we'd like to do, pass it along.
That's a good point. You can't get better if you're not collaborating and fishing with other people. That's the way you learn.
If you're not learning, you're dying.
Yeah.
If you're not learning, you're dying. You're just going to be stagnant. You're never going to.
And really, Mike, now more than ever.
So much now more than ever. So much now more than ever. And I think with September fishing, if you take some of those points that we made there, and even though they're small little points, and if you just mentally challenge yourself with it of understanding what it is, then you'll fish differently, and then maybe that'll be the reason why you get those bites. And like I said, it's not like you're going to go out and crush them, but you're going to have a few magical days in September where you catch a lot of fish because you run across a school of eating fish that are busting on the surface, and it's great, and it's fun, and it's awesome. Yeah. But most of the days are going to be like where you're grinding and you're only going to get a couple bites, and if you're mentally ready for that challenge and you're out there doing it, you're going to catch them. You're going to catch your 5. You're going to get your 6, your 7, 8 fish. And that's really it's a good day sometimes in September.
I think so, and something that I know you agree with, and we didn't really get into, but we talked about hydration because it helps your mental state. Mm-hmm. You really got to do and find a way to stay positive throughout that day.
Yeah.
You hear a lot of anglers right now talking about that mental attitude, that positive mental attitude.
Yeah.
That's really going to try you
yeah.
in September. And, you got to keep thinking
yeah.
that you're going to get on them.
Yeah.
It's only a matter of time, and I like that. I think fishing is a huge mental game, and that's why we love doing it.
Well, positive thinking is very, very important in the sport of fishing, and never more so than in September.
Right.
So I hope you guys enjoyed the show, and we'll be back next Thursday. George will be here, and we're going to have another great show for you, and have a great time. But till then, have a great bite. Hopefully everything works out for you for your September fishing. Enjoy it. And until next time, we'll see you at the next Tackle Shop Live. I pulled that thing.
Oh yeah, I have it right here. Yeah. That's too funny, did it? That's hilarious. That was cool. Yeah, I'm looking at that there. I'm like, why is that there?